Hi. Welcome to Doc Walks. What are we doing here today? Well, we are having a bonus episode. That's right. Today is a bonus episode. It is a bonus re-release. We're going all the way back to episode 7 to celebrate the theatrical release of Charlie Shackleton's ZODIAC Killer Project. So Ben and I took a great walk with Charlie all around downtown Austin during South by Southwest in March of 2025. And here we are in November of 2025, and ZODIAC Killer Project is in theaters around the country. We hope that you'll give this a listen either before or after you watch the film, and share it with your friends. This is an audio-only episode. This is before Ben tricked me into filming our every move, our every step. So you're just going to have to imagine with your minds Ben's smiling face, my grizzled visage, and of course, the beautiful creature that is Charlie Shackleton. So thanks for being here. Thanks for checking out this bonus episode. If you haven't heard it already, I think you're really going to like it. If you have heard it, it's like popping in on an old friend. And please do check out ZODIAC Killer Project in theaters now. It's premiering here in Austin at the AFS Theater Friday night, November 25th. And I think that was actually Friday night, November 28th. Thank you. And we will see you guys at the movies. Talk to us about what you think about ZODIAC Killer Project and about Doc Walks. All right. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to Doc Walks. This is your intro.
And this is South by Southwest day 3, or is it day 2?
Does it even matter?
No, I guess it doesn't matter.
I don't know. But Ben, well, it's day something because you can hear in Ben's voice that he has been talking up a storm. He's been doc walking with doc filmmakers. He's been meeting with advertising and agents and doing his day job of being a commercial impresario.
That's right. I've been at many parties shouting over loud music, so my voice is destroyed already just a couple days into the festival.
I'm mostly antisocial, so it works out fine that my voice is, as always, well rested.
Yeah, you sound buttery and smooth, as usual. Dulcet tones.
From head to toe.
So we're here this morning. It's freezing cold, which is never the case at South by. We're out in front of the Hilton Garden Inn waiting for Charlie Shackleton.
Yeah, Charlie's movie, ZODIAC Killer Project, made its South by debut last night. He had his world premiere at Sundance last month. We tried to get in, couldn't get in Park City, so I was thrilled when I got a chance to see it last night. It is a different kind of film. He is a different kind of filmmaker. You will hear in his voice, he's from a different land altogether.
And he also sounds like the kind of guy who makes like personal film. So I'll be curious to hear what he says about going on that journey and, you know, being a main character, basically.
Yeah, I got to chat with him just a little last night, and I'm already looking forward to this time together. He's smart, he's funny, and he's got a point of view that I don't think we've encountered on this podcast just yet.
You mean British?
Basically.
Oh, and I think here he is right here.
On your left.
You're listening to Doc Walks with Ben and Keith.
You know what? I was on the phone to my friend back in London last night, just as the bats began flying.
Oh wow!
And immediately it was just this insane chorus of the bats screeching, as well as like 6 different sirens that seemed to go past in that moment. It sounded like I'd conjured it artificially to try and convince her that I was in Austin.
Was your friend concerned for your safety?
Well, just sort of annoyed, I think. She's not that sympathetic.
Let's see, Charlie, could you give me a little bit of a test, please?
So, 1, 2, 3, hello. I'll try looking in a couple of different directions in case I start
You sound
sightseeing.
fantastic. Oh, I guess we should do an intro.
We are walking down 17th Street near Guadalupe with Charlie Shackleton, filmmaker from London, visiting Austin to share his film, ZODIAC Killer Project.
Well done.
Easily South by Southwest.
Easily gotten wrong, that title. I've had all manner of ZODIAC film project, ZODIAC documentary, etc.
So welcome, Charlie Shackleton. Welcome to Austin. Welcome back to South by Southwest. I know it's not your first time, and thank you for having me at your screening last night. I'm thrilled to talk about the film from the point of view of somebody who loves this subject, was intrigued by your approach, and is so eager to understand where your process started and ended, and but also share it with Ben, who will be wandering aimlessly through the streets of Austin, wondering what we're talking about because he didn't get a chance to see it.
Yeah, and I'm very bad at explaining this film. So you may have to do half of the legwork, but we'll see.
Well, now wait a second. Don't you narrate the entire film?
Exactly, and it takes me 92 minutes to explain it. So how am I going to do it now to you?
We don't have that kind of time.
Not
Charlie.
quite that much. But if you would, to get back to Ben's initial question, could you give us your best encapsulation of what ZODIAC Killer Project is for our audience who probably hasn't seen it yet?
So ZODIAC Killer Project is a film about my failed attempt to make a true crime documentary. So I had been trying to adapt this memoir into a documentary about the Zodiac Killer and about one specific suspect in the case. And as I was in pre-production and developing the story, the negotiations for the rights to that book fell through. And so I sort of licked my wounds and tried to move on to other projects, but had done so much, like even beyond the actual like practical work that had been done on the film, I had made the mistake of kind of in my brain conceptualizing the entire thing and sort of, you know, down to what it was going to look like, how it was going to flow narratively, etc. And I really couldn't kind of leave it behind me. I couldn't let it go, and would find myself like recounting to friends in bars sequences from this imagined film that I would now never get to make.
Right, the one that got away.
Yeah, which obviously we've all done, and you know, it's happened to me many times before, and eventually you just get over it. But on this occasion, it was so sort of enduring that I started thinking about that as a potential subject for a film, that feeling of frustration and kind of thwarted creative ambition. And I've made a lot of films that are kind of just people telling well-worn stories. And by this point, I'd told this story so many times that I was like, well, now I have a well-worn story. And so, yeah, I started working on this film, ZODIAC Killer Project. And the way it kind of flows, the way it sort of is structured is that in real time, I'm just describing what that other film would have been, which sounds boring, and to some people is.
It doesn't.
Fortunately for me.
It doesn't sound boring to me. It sounds like you took the inability to gain access and made a film about that challenge, about that hurdle. So in doing that, did you know right away that you would be the sort of narrator that takes us through this journey? Or how did you start to think about it when you knew that you couldn't let this idea go and you had to go make the film?
Yeah, I mean, even when it first fell through, I genuinely was very, like, just devastated. And I happened to be in Vallejo, where the Zodiac Killer's crimes took place, when I found out, because I'd been screening another film of mine in San Francisco. And so I took the ferry over. I was looking around at like potential locations when I heard that it had fallen through. And even then, even in that disappointment, I think there was probably a little glimmer of possibility in my mind, because I know that so many of my films have come from some sort of limit, from some sort of obstacle. I don't think I'm the filmmaker who works very well with absolute freedom. I sort of need something to push against, and this obviously was an enormous thing to push against.
Wow, interesting. Go more into it. Like, tell me about some of your other films. Are they also true crime stories that you had to fight for access to, or?
It's more, I think it's like I've made a lot of archival films, and obviously when you work with archival material, to some extent there is a finite limit on what exists. So for instance, I made a short film about a legal case in Britain in the early 90s, late 80s, which was about a group of gay and bisexual men who were prosecuted for having a series of sadomasochistic sex parties. And this set a very sort of significant precedent in British law around consent, because it was basically decided that their consent to participate in these sex parties was not a defense to having, quote unquote, assaulted one another and aided and abetted assaults on themselves.
Wow.
So it was this very bizarre case, needless to say, very, in my opinion, homophobically motivated. But the only reason they'd been able to even know that these things took place, because obviously it was a victimless crime,
Right.
no one was reporting this to the police, was because the men had videotaped the parties. And so, obviously, when I began working on it, the first thing I wondered is like, do these tapes exist?
Right.
Police still have them? Do any of the men involved still have them? And so I spent like 18 months fighting this freedom of information battle back and forth with the police, who, blocked my every attempt to access any of this stuff. I think ultimately the tapes probably aren't in their possession anyway, but they wouldn't even get to the point of telling me what they had, let alone giving it to me. And so that film likewise started from a position of not being able to get or look at or access the thing that felt to some extent like it was the core of the thing.
I love that you use frustration as a driving energizer. It's like
Isn't it always?
Yeah. No, I think we all do, and I think most of us take our frustration and pivot and kind of try and end up putting lipstick on a pig sometimes. But you, it seems like, refuse to hide behind the limitation, but instead you highlight the limitation, right? That's certainly what you do here. Is that the archival film that you're describing? What is it called, and how did you respond to that frustration?
So it's called Lasting Marks, and it's which is a great accent test, I find. It was always fun going to the US to screen it because everyone enjoys hearing me say lasting marks.
Yeah, because we would say lasting marks.
Would you do the hard?
Say it like that.
Would you do the hard R on marks still?
How would you say?
Lasting marks? Lasting marks?
Lasting marks, right? You wouldn't go lasting man.
Okay, and so again, this is a story about something that you needed to basically work really hard to gain access to. You don't ultimately gain the access, but you find a new way to tell the story and to bring it to life.
Maybe one day I'll actually get access to anything, and then I can make something that I actually.
Well, it's such an interesting, almost like stoic idea that like the obstacle is the way, right? Like instead of, turning away from it and going in the opposite direction or giving up on the project altogether, you decided, no, this is actually what will inform the project and help me make it, which is not everybody would do, I don't think. And that's like a really beautiful way to sort of approach not only making a film, but also life in general. Like, so is that, were you inspired by other filmmakers that do that? And were you sort of working with somebody else's as a work as a reference?
I'm trying to think. I mean, definitely, yeah. Like that sort of like provocation is very appealing to me, both as a filmmaker and a viewer. I mean, the way I sort of fell in love with documentary as a kid, somewhat predictably, was watching a lot of those sort of quite punky, provocative, like plucky, roving camera type documentarians. Like, well, specifically, I was going to say Michael Moore, who I was obsessed with as a kid.
Or Nick Broomfield.
But Nick Broomfield was the big one. Yeah. So I remember as a teenager, having the like Nick Broomfield DVD box set, and the idea, especially him as a sort of like unlikely, quite unassuming, slightly awkward and shuffly British figure, like bumbling into these very fraught situations, but sort of refusing to back down at every limit. That definitely did have an influence. I remember one of his sort of lesser known films that I'd never really heard anyone talking about. It's a film called Tracking Down Maggie.
I don't know that one.
Which is, it's sort of, in some ways like a familiar premise. It's just him trying to get an interview with Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, I was hoping it was going to be Maggie Smith.
It's a post Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. She's in her retirement, or maybe she's still an MP at that time, but she's on a book tour, and he's trying to get an interview with her, and she refuses. And obviously, there's 1,000 films like this where it's just about trying to get the interview you're never going to get, Roger and me, obviously.
Yeah. Or last night, our somebody else we interviewed is a friend of ours, Adam Balalo's movie Deep Faking Sam Altman. That's the premise.
Oh, is that also the premise?
Yeah. He's trying to get to Sam Altman and can't do it.
And it's, it produced lots of good movies. And this one probably isn't even a particularly remarkable example of the subgenre, but it was maybe the first one I'd seen. And the directions in which that sends him off spinning, because he's obviously so hopelessly unable to get an interview with Margaret Thatcher, I found very stimulating and interesting as a prospect.
Yeah.
That could be a film, that could be a documentary.
I really love that too, like taking the audience along for the ride, and they're sort of complicit in making the film with you, sort of thing.
Yeah. And that you're wrapped into the process of the production as well. Like there's such huge swathes of that film and just Nick Broomfield talking to Margaret Thatcher's publicist. Like she's a much bigger character in the film than Margaret Thatcher, inevitably.
Well, and that shows you how she's protected and how hard it is, how media trained celebrities are. And, it gives you a interesting lens through which to look at someone like her. So that's fascinating. So are you going to continue on this route with your next film project? You have something else you're working on?
It's weird to imagine making that your kind of staple, your signature as a documentary filmmaker, because I obviously can't produce limitations for myself. I can't force a situation where I have to think outside the box or whatever.
I love how you turn legal documents and conversations with lawyers into riveting documentary cinema.
At least half of last night's Q&A was Charlie extolling the virtue of his relationship with his attorney.
I love my lawyer. He's my primary creative collaborator.
I wish you had credited him as such. When you said that in the Q&A, I thought that was
co-director.
Yeah. Let's pivot back to the making of ZODIAC Killer Project in the beginning. When you make the decision, I can't make the film I want to make, but I'm going to make this other film instead. What is the process for pitching and funding? Are you sticking your neck out and going deep on spec to win people over with a really strong proof of concept? Or are you setting meetings and calling up old collaborators and trying to convince them to give you one more shot? Or are you knocking on new doors and saying, let's break new ground together? How's it work?
So I always feel almost guilty telling this part of the story because it was insanely, blissfully easy, which is never the case.
You should feel guilty.
I know.
Oh,
and
man,
certainly
that
has
is
not
never the case.
Not been the case for me with any other project. But yeah, after a lot of as I say, false starts, once I did conceive of this film that I actually made, rather than the one I didn't make, I went to Field of Vision, with whom I'd worked before a couple of times, including actually on that short that I talked about before.
Lasting Marks.
Lasting Marks. And and then I basically I'd made a little kind of pitch video, essentially, just kind of much like the finished film, just me kind of rambling through the idea with some various visual reference points. Showed them that, and I think it was both good timing in that they were looking to start a couple of new projects, but also, incredibly, they were able to see it and had faith that this would actually make sense as a film at some point, which I think even I did not totally believe at that point.
Wow. So your financiers had the vision at times that even when you didn't. That's
a rare case.
Very rare.
Yeah.
Lawyers, financiers, easy money. This is
Charlie.
this case is against all odds.
I know. You are a unicorn in the field of documentary, truly.
And that's always be the redirect man, but I want to come back for our audience who hasn't seen the film. I don't exactly know what simple label you would apply, but the label that I've heard thrown around for this project and others, including one I'm working on, is a twist on true crime. I don't know if that's the way you would put it, but it is not a standard true crime approach. And if anything, I would say I saw last night a skewering of true crime in a way. But how would you describe your relationship in this film to true crime, and why?
Yeah, it's fun. The thing I always forget that obviously to some extent it does still play as a true crime film, because the form of it is me, perfectly replicating what the narrative beats of the unmade film would have been. So at its best, hopefully, if people get into it, you have the sensation of watching that film, even though you're not watching it. So it has sort of the rhythm of a true crime film. It has the structure of a true crime film, just sort of without any of the actual meat of the thing. My relationship to it's funny, like the thing that crops up again and again and again in reviews inevitably is the phrase love-hate, which I get because obviously I express a lot of affection for the genre in the film, while also kind of taking the piss out of it, parodying some of its more hackneyed tropes. To me, the aim with the film was to express the sort of almost like the neutrality of how and it seems like a lot of people relate to true crime. It's almost like a passive thing. It's just so, saturated in our culture, and especially in the documentary industry, as you two both know.
What is it? The 3 C's? If you're pitching a project, you have to have one of the 3 C's.
Crime, celebrity, and cult.
And cult.
Cult. I was wondering what the third one was. I feel like the cults have gone a little out of fashion.
There's only so many of them.
Right, they've run out of cults, yeah.
I mean, there's an opening, right? Like, start a new cult, and you're guaranteed, some airtime.
And so I think
That actually might be,
I know,
that feels like an Adam Bella Low doc right there.
Just gonna say, that sounds like that's maybe your next
Charlie,
film.
you
That is
start a
pushing
cult.
against the limitation.
Charlie start a cult, and it'll be our next film.
Yeah, if the limitation is there are no cults left, starting one is a beautiful
All right, we just
way
start
around
to
that.
Charlie, and he's gonna start.
premises on premises here on Doc Walks.
How much of this is purposeful in your mind versus sort of like accidental, in the way that we were talking about Nick Broomfield's films being a comment on Margaret Thatcher because he can't get to her?
Right.
Like, are you meaning to comment on the genre, or are you just so enamored with the story that you're making it however you can, and then that's a happy coincidence?
It's definitely intentional. But I suppose for me, it was almost like that critique just rose inevitably out of the way that I would find myself and my friends talking about this stuff. It's like, I know a lot of other documentary filmmakers, including many who've made true crime films. And when they talk about working in their field, they're not talking in these sober, austere terms about the gravity of the story or whatever. Like anything else, when you're in it, you talk about it in quite a kind of playful, glib way. And, you have dark humor about it, and you're confronted constantly by the seriousness of it, but also the sort of absurdity of it. And so the real sort of intentional thing was trying to capture that strange, almost kind of amoral tone that I think a lot of this stuff is conjured within. And I knew inevitably that would mean the film was a critique of true crime. So that was very inevitable.
Nice.
Intentional. As well as the possibility that I seem like a bit of a smug jerk.
I had a similar experience where my first feature doc to make, and I'd made lots of other shorts. I'd never even narrated any of them, but my first feature was a movie called Winnebago Man, and very quickly the movie became my relationship to the guy who was the star of this accidental viral video. And it happened so organically that I didn't really think about it a whole lot during the production, because I was so busy talking him into participating and trying to deal with how difficult he was being. But when we got into the edit, I started to realize there's so many things that I should have done differently, or so many ways this could go wrong, being the both the director and the star of the movie. And so I think I was lucky that I just wasn't like carrying that neuroses, you know. But now, if I were to do that, I think I would be much more self-conscious. So was there a level for you, knowing that you were narrating and that you're a character in the film in some way? Like, were you sort of trying to avoid certain tropes, or?
I think I was definitely like, yeah, by contrast with your situation, obviously I was very, very consciously inserting myself. You know, I could have done it other ways, and instead I chose to not only plaster my voice all over the film, but even, you know, film those voiceover sessions. Ooh.
Yeah.
Maybe not this way.
I was just gonna say we could do one more lap because we're pretty close to where we started, and I feel like
Yeah, this is his hotel. Maybe we do. Yeah, do we just do one more quick?
that's what I was thinking. But it's this east-west is what's killing us.
Is what's killing us.
Either way, we're gonna, or we just go back down. Let's just go back down.
And it is.
Yeah.
We got about 10 more minutes. I want to respect your time here.
Yeah.
So,
Let's just go down another block and then come back.
okay, sounds good.
And I don't want to like cut you short. You were
No.
you were mostly answered through that question.
Yeah.
Let's get to the other side of like where this building does and get into some wrap up. I'll let you finish the thought. So,
No, yeah, perfect.
Oh, this is.
Wow.
Yeah.
yeah,
You really got.
once we get over here, you should be all right.
Yeah.
And if we are, we can also just stand still. We don't have to keep.
No, totally up to you.
Well, let's see. I think Keith's right. Once we get in front of this building, it should be a little better.
Maybe.
Here, let's stand in.
We'd always take refuge behind this
This little improvised
That
sound booth.
That wouldn't look weird at all.
glory hole setup, whatever's going on back there.
Here, let's try it. Actually, I think this might.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I think it has been home to various private
A
moments.
lot going on.
Yeah, a lot going on. We just inadvertently walked into an outdoor toilet. Is what happened. But this is good right here, actually. So,
Okay.
Yeah, this is calm.
Okay, so Charlie, I think Keith brings up a great point. We should probably redirect here, be some sort, have a shape this in some way that we're learning to do. This is our 5th episode, so
Yeah.
we're novices here. But one of the things we hope people get out of this is these are other working documentarians listening to advice from other working documentarians. So as somebody who makes documentary for a living, can you just talk about your process a little bit? Like how many projects you're developing at one time, how you choose projects to develop, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So I inevitably have an absolutely unfathomable number of projects happening at any one time.
I like it.
And when I say happening, I mean happening in the least meaningful sense. They're like crawling along with no money and no activity whatsoever.
Well, let's drill down into that. So like, are you talking about like you'll read an article, for example, and reach out to the author of the article and then
So I
establish a
will,
relationship like that? Or
I have a folder on my computer that is that says it's called like projects, and within that folder there are 3 other folders, and one is completed, so obviously feel good about all those. The other is abandoned, and that's got like 50 subfolders of ideas, both like actually meaningful to me that I have mourned, and like so crap and insubstantial that I barely remember having.
Fleeting thoughts.
Yeah, I will start a new folder in there at the drop of a hat. It does not need to have any value at all as an idea. Partly because, as you both know, like you never know when something's going to suddenly seem relevant again.
and you can drag one folder from one
When the
folder
folders
to the
move.
other,
What a feeling.
which you did with this film.
Indeed.
Yeah.
You move the folder.
And then, yeah, finally, like active. And I maybe have 6 or 7 things in there at any one time, so that hopefully when inevitably these pauses come up in projects because you're waiting to hear back from someone or you're hoping that something becomes available, I can try and shift to one of the others. What that inevitably means is that you go to film festivals and people are like, so how long did you work on the film? And then the answer is always like 7 years. And they're like, how are you making anything else if you're taking that long and everything? But it's like 7 years staggered over every other 7-year project.
Right.
One of these years, I'd love to just like make something in a year. It must feel incredible.
It must be. Well, but I'm surprised you're not doing that with your easy access to funding
Well,
and
indeed.
your incredibly generous financiers.
And I
helping
suppose
you
the
make something.
definitions are a little blurry on that one, because yes, if you're just talking about like the actual production of the film I have managed to make, then it was pretty good. It was like a year and a half, which I will absolutely take. The problem is once you start factoring in like the failed film as sort of the same project, then we're getting up into like 5-6 years.
Unlike you, I don't use a folder system. I have a spreadsheet in Google Drive that I refer to as my board. And so at any point in time, I say, I've got 21 projects on my board right now. But it's exactly what you described. It's a question of the board is divided up into high priority, low priority, and confusion. And then I don't even have completed. They just take it off the board. But maybe I need to celebrate the completion.
You need completed for a little feel-good,
Yeah.
like spark. Yeah.
Yeah, I need that little feel-good spark.
You do. I agree with that. You need a feel-good spark.
That's why I have you, Ben. Ben is my feel-good spark. That's right.
And I'm the optimist. He's the Eeyore of the group, the pessimist.
I'm just grumpy. Okay, so what advice do you have for young people who discover that they cannot make the film that they want to make? What should they do? Do they rent a 60mm camera and do what you did, or what is your advice?
I think like the best advice I could give, I think, and it applies here as with so many filming situations, is I think never underestimate quite how little can be a film. Like this is something I often like talk to film students or like talk at film schools, and the thing I observe again and again, and I get why this happens, is like people who are just starting out, trying to make their first like student film, first like thesis, documentary, whatever it might be, and they think it needs to be about something huge, something that like earns its existence as a film. And so they shoot for these huge topics, which inevitably, as brand new filmmakers, they're not really equipped to handle. Like it's and at worst, it's like they feel like they need to dig into the absolute most intimate parts of their life or their family history. And it's like, you're probably not actually at a place yet where you can really get a grip on that. So I'm always like, no, it can be almost nothing. It could be like a good conversation you had with a friend or a story that went nowhere. And this film is obviously, like a pretty, it's a feature-length explication of that, because it's literally about just nothing. It's about something that didn't happen. But I think that's fared me very well in general, is accepting that basically anything that interests you in however small a way is meaningful and is something and is better than like chasing something because you think someone else is going to be interested in it.
That's great advice.
I think it's incredible advice.
Yeah.
A story that went nowhere, I think, is potentially a great title for this episode.
All right, so let's walk back to your hotel. And as we do, I want to tell you a story about when I was a film student. I had a professor encourage us to write to filmmakers we admired. Mm-hmm. And I was always kind of an arty kid who didn't like things that were popular. So I loved Alan Berliner. I loved Ross McElwee. I loved Les Plank. So I wrote to those guys. They all wrote me back.
Wow.
And Ross McElwee said something very germane to what you just said, where he basically said that he quoted Wordsworth, which was very Ross McElwee, being a professor at Harvard and sort of having a poetic narrative style that he has. Mm-hmm. But he said the edge of meaning never is far from personal experience, or something like that. Meaning, shoot what you have access to, shoot your actual life that you can then make into a story that will be very relatable, almost more like the more personal you make it, the more universal the story is. And I love that you're giving similar advice. Like, don't shoot for chasing headlines in the newspaper necessarily. Make something that you personally feel strongly about and trust that your audience will follow you there.
Totally.
Yeah. Is that a good summation of what you said?
Absolutely. And also I think, it's like my film, has certain formal elements that on paper might sound kind of alienating or oblique. Much of it consists of just static shots of nothing happening. There's 10 minutes into the film, there's a 5-minute shot of a table. All of which, yeah, like could sound off-putting.
I hope it's on the poster. And 10 minutes into the film, there's a 5-minute shot of the table.
All of which could potentially be off-putting. But the thing I always, said while we were working on it is like, as long as that, because that's accompanied by, me telling this story in a kind of conversational, improvised way, I was like, that doesn't need to be any more off-putting than sitting at a table and talking to someone for 5 minutes. And indeed, I mean, not everyone feels this way, but a lot of audiences seem to feel this way, that actually stuff that's theoretically experimental or difficult or oblique, if it's just intuitive when you watch it and feels like easy to grasp, it needn't be. And like, there's no reason that's any more oblique than a talking head interview. It's just that you've seen the talking head interview 10,000 times before. So you have this sort of prior relationship with that, what that means.
So you're expecting that, but then you're giving them something unexpected.
Yeah. But I think people will really go with you if there's a sense of it meaning something to you. As you say, if it feels like someone's actually invested.
Right. Yeah. The more personal, the more universal. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is great. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Walk sign is on to cross Guadalupe at
12, 11, 10, 9. So, I don't know when you're going to get a chance to see Charlie's film. It is seeking distribution. I know he's got the folks at Cinetic working to make a deal. It's a hard film to imagine, showing up on your feed on Netflix on a Friday night. I would hope the people at HBO would see the value in it. Maybe it's an Amazon, but it's hard to say. It's a unique film, and so where does a film like that end up? I don't know.
We'll find out. And so keep your eyes peeled for ZODIAC Killer Project. It sounds right up my alley with my love of Ross McElwee and filmmakers who take you on a journey. Michael Moore. So I'm very excited to see it, and I really enjoyed meeting Charlie. So I hope it gets distribution, and I hope somebody listening buys it for lots and lots of money.
And I hope that the people in our audience feel the way that I feel, which is inspired to lean into the obstacles. Most of this work is rejection based. You gotta gird yourself to take the no's. But talking to Charlie is a reminder that there's an opportunity for creativity in that rejection. And we ran out of time with him, but the question I would have asked is, at this point, would he have preferred to make the film that he set out to make, or to have ended up where he did now? And it's hard to imagine the version of the film that he describes being more impactful than what he actually created.
Amen. Well, let's hope everybody feels that way about the films we make.
Let's hope.
Let's hope.
We can hope.
All right. That's it for now. I got to go rest my voice. We'll see you for the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And that was Charlie Shackleton. And that was ZODIAC Killer Project. That was Ben Steinbauer. I am still Keith Maitland. And if you are still here with us, we really do appreciate you. We hope that you will share these episodes, that you'll comment on them, that you'll subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Instagram and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever it is that our voices and pictures are getting out into the world. Thanks so much for being here with us, and we hope that you have had a wonderful Thanksgiving and a great time catching up with me and Ben and Charlie's walk. That's the end. That's the end of the bonus episode. That's all we've got. I hope you'll be here next week for another regular episode of Doc Walks. Doc Walks is presented, directed, created, edited by myself and this guy.
Hello.
We couldn't do it without co-producer Dayton Thompson.
No, we couldn't. Thank you, Dayton.
Continues to knock it out of the park. Thank you, Dayton. And thanks to the folks at the Bear.
The folks at Go Valley, we have a team of interns that are working hard for us.
And thank you for sticking around. If you're still here, You're a diehard and we appreciate you. We'll catch you next time.
On Docwalks.
Follow us at DocWalksPod on Instagram, X, and YouTube.